Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, distinguished guests, and folks of all stripes, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston Astros podcast for diehard Houston Astros fans from a diehard Houston Astro fan. Whew, I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite diehard Astros fan podcaster. I'm a writer, I'm a performer, I'm a gig economy worker, and I am a multi-hyphenate, a Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. My grandma lived in the Heights. We lived very close to a Church's Chicken, always eating Church's. I spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer here in Los Angeles, and now I am podcasting. Welcome to said podcast. This is the Space Cadet Sports Podcast that was born out of my Substack. You can find that at spacecadetsports.substack.com. This is lovingly what my brother calls the Paul Broad Podball blog. Here we, try not to be all doom and gloom about the Astros or worse, national media haters of them. We love this team here and root for them, but we also want to discuss the ins and the outs of this team without resorting to too much homerism. Keyword try. We try to be reasonable and not too hot-takey or reactionary here. Without too much homerism, of course. This is a Space Cadet Sports Podcast, and we're recording here at night. I was going to say sunny LA like I always do, but it's not moon-ish, moonlit Los Angeles. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and co-producer, the Roz to my Frasier. Carla, the dog, is here with me. She may get on mic from time to time, as she is apt to do. She hasn't done it in a couple of episodes. Sometimes she has hot takes for the podcast. Somebody has to have hot takes here if I'm not going to have them, We got to get some kind of ratings. That's why people have hot takes, Paul. We're going to talk about the Royals today. Obviously, the last couple of games, the last time we had a podcast, I talked about Game 1 of the Royals series. And I'm already back before the end of the Royals series to talk about the last two games. Last night, Jose Altuve won the game in walk-off fashion. He caught the walk-off spirit. He was blessed by the baseball gods. And we all were too, as the Astros won a walk-off win yesterday. I wanted to get on the podcast, but just couldn't make it happen. But after today's win, after the Astros winning 3 in a row against the Kansas City Royals, a legit playoff contending team, you're feeling pretty good about those Houston Astros. I wanted to get on the podcast. There is an early game tomorrow against the Royals. They won 3 in a row, but it wasn't a sweep. There is one more game tomorrow, folks. And obviously, we're going into Labor Day weekend here. So I was hoping to kind of have Monday off. I'd do a podcast today, come back on Tuesday on the off day for an off-day goof-off podcast. And for those of you who haven't been here for an off-day goof-off podcast, I'm generally a little goofier because I don't have to watch a baseball game. I have just a little bit more silliness in those off days. I'm trying to get to not have to podcast for a couple days off, enjoy the weekend a little bit. During that time, you're welcome to check out the Substack. Go check out the blog, spacecadetsports.substack.com. I will have at least one meme dump or an article out there for you to check out after the series versus the Royals. So definitely check that out. Today, let's get into it by talking about yesterday. Yesterday's win was absolutely fantastic. It was another one of those tough games, just like the Game 1 of the Royal series. It was a little bit butt clenching, if you will. Definitely was worried at multiple points in this game, but the Astros did come away with the W. The Astros did come away with more to feel good about than to stress on. It was absolutely great. The Astros win another walk-off game. Jose Altuve once again shows he's the GOAT in yesterday's game. One of Houston's GOATs came to the mound, threw a first pitch. The Astros celebrated the Houstonian Olympians, and of course, front and center was Simone Biles, who came out in some large white cowboy boots and threw a strike for a first pitch there to John Singleton. So that was fun. You see, the game started off with a goat and ending with a goat. Framber Valdez started this game, folks. Framber has really solidified this season and proved that he is the ace of this squad once again. There was a little bit of some Framber troubles, way back. We remember when he shook off Yainer Diaz and I believe that was against the Angels. He went rogue and had a tough game. And really, ever since then, he's really turned a corner. He's really kind of solidified this season, and he has been our ace. In this game, he had a no-hit stuff. He went 7 innings pitched. He gave up 3 walks and 7 strikeouts, and led the Astros to flirt with another no-hitter in this game. You'd love to see it, folks. The Astros pitching the month of August has been absolutely phenomenal. I don't have the stat on me, but I believe, let's see. Going to have to do this on, folks, this is not a thing you want to do on the podcast. You want to kind of have those numbers and things ready. I don't have it. It's fine. All right. I don't, what's this? That's, yeah. Okay. Well, I do have this up. The most no-hit bids of 7 innings pitched since 2019. The Houston Astros have the most no-hit bids of more than going into past the 7th inning, I should say. Since 2019, they have 17 no-hit bids. The next closest would be the San Diego Padres with 8. Houston has had 6 no-hitters since 2019. Obviously, Houston knows what it's doing with its pitching. We used to give all the credit to Brett Strom. Brett Strom obviously was an amazing pitch coach, but you have to give credit to Josh Miller as well, who has stepped in and really helped this franchise. You look at the player development for the minor leagues. You look at the pitchers that the Astros have had, since 2019, and truly, it's been a lot of homegrown talent, a lot of pitchers that not a lot of people have on their radar. Every year, the Major League Baseball comes out with farm system rankings, and every year the Astros are like at the bottom or close to the bottom. So it's amazing to see what the Astros can do with their scouting, with their player development, with their Major League coaching, and with the grit that the Houston Astros pitchers have. It's absolutely amazing, and we are witnessing greatness. This is another one of those things that I point to when spoiled Astros fans start complaining about things and how this team is no good. I'm just like, we have been spoiled by this rare era of history that the Astros have been in. I have been an Astros fan since forever, since the 90s, truly, depending on how young you want to count me as a fan, late 80s, but the Astros have, I know what it's like to root for a mediocre baseball team, to root for an overachieving baseball team. I know what it's like to root for 100 loss teams. This run that the Astros have been on has been absolutely fantastic, and I guess that's why I always I'm so hesitant to just bash the Astros as much as people do, especially Astros fans like to do. I'm like, we're supposed to be the fans of this team. This team is phenomenal. Unfortunately, it was not a no-hitter for the Houston Astros in this game. Brian Abreu came in the 8th inning. He picked up his 33rd hold of the year. Brian Abreu, after his previous game, after having some really tough outings, Brian Abreu's kind of been on the hot seat for Houston Astros fans. Even Cousin Terry, shout out Cousin Terry, I know you listen, love you. Cousin Terry's even saying, she does not have a lot of trust in Brian Abreu, and I get it. I'm not going to sit here and be like the guy's been absolutely lights out, but arguably, he has been overworked this season. He has been fatigued. I think that has been part of it. So it was good to see him go out there, kind of bounce back. He has been consistent on this season, well, except for when he's inconsistent and blowing saves, but that hasn't happened too often, has been my point. You can go back a podcast, I believe, and hear more about me ranting about Abreu. And I definitely think I need to get a trust radar out now that we're getting to the playoff rosters closer, hopefully potentially to Houston. What we as fans would at least want to see as playoff rosters starting to come into our minds, if nothing else. We still have to finish the season. We can't put the cart ahead of the horse here, but I might want to get a relief pitcher trust ranking going here, because I do trust Abreu, and I do trust the next pitcher that came out here. Josh Hader came out and blew a save. He came out to pitch the ninth inning. It was a tough one here. He blew the save in the ninth. He gave up a hit, gave up 2 runs, an earned run. He did get 2 strikeouts. One of the hits he gave up was a home run. It's tough. After some solid defense in this game, JP3, my man, but the guy who's really been struggling with errors, especially this month particularly, had an error in the ninth that was absolutely gut-wrenching. Not only did Hader give up a home run that tied the game after the error, but it just all around felt bad. You felt like the baseball gods perhaps were not on our side for this game. I started to text out apologies in case I was the problem. It was a bad feeling in the ninth after an error, after Hader giving up a home run. It just felt tense. I think it's time to officially diagnose JP3 with the yips. He is a great to all-star defender who is struggling, and it's just so inexplicable right now. He has the makeup to be a plus defender. He definitely has done it in the past. He's a Gold Glove winner. So it's like JP3 has the stuff. I don't think he's lost it. He's still very, very young. I don't think he's doing anything all that different that we should be worried about. I think it's just a little bit of the yips. Now that he's caught some defensive errors, he needs to shake it off. It's a tough thing when you kind of have the yips, and we're hoping and praying for JP3 to kind of get over that hump, especially now that we are going into September. We're hoping that these errors are just kind of a thing of the past and he can get over this hump. I have full confidence in him. I don't think anybody needs to worry. Anybody that's saying that JP3 is no longer a great defensive player, I understand that you might have just started watching baseball this week, but he's still a great defensive player. He's just having a tough month. That's what baseball is. I said in the previous podcast, I think it's what I'm going to go with going forward a lot, is baseball is a game of failure. It's hard to field those balls so quickly and at the pace and clip that he does. It is, of course, what professional athletes get paid to do. I hear you, Mr. Conservative Boomer radio caller, saying that to the podcast right now. It's what professional athletes get paid to do. But also, we have to think about the fact that who would we replace him with defensively? Greg Kessinger? Greg Kissinger is probably the only other shortstop that I would feel good about at this time. Obviously, if Alex Bregman was completely healthy, he could slot into a shortstop role. But at this point in his career, he's kind of solidified there at first base. At third base. I'm slipping up thinking that I wished he would have played first base a little bit during his arm problem. Maybe it would have saved him a couple games off or something, that he's been in right now. There's been no Bregman for these past 2 games. So, I was hopeful that he would play first base, but he's kind of solidified there at third. I don't think he would want to play short anyway. So if we're really looking at it, it's like, do we want to put Greg Kessinger to sub for Jeremy Pena's defense? I don't think so. I don't think Greg Kessinger, while he is a plus defender. I don't think he's going to bring you that much more than Jeremy Pena, except that he might not have the yips. But then again, he's not on the 26-man roster right now. He's not with the major league team. So we'd have to bring him up for September call-ups, and I'm not sure if he's the guy we want for the call-up just because we're worried about a little bit of Pena defense. Because I feel like that's going to sort itself out. I feel like you want him to kind of play through the yips a little bit because you don't want him to be benched and have confidence issues going into the playoffs. You kind of want him to just power through the yips. So we don't want Kessinger. Plus, no offense to Mr. Kessinger, but his bat is it's very unproven and not highly rated, but he definitely bats a whole lot better than me. So that being said, I'm not sure if Kessinger is necessarily the answer. I think you just write out Pena and you kind of calm down with all the Pena hate. I mean, this guy was a World Series MVP. All right, calm down. He's gonna figure it out. But anyway, whether it's the Pena error, whether it's Hader giving up another home run, I believe that's now double-digit home runs on this season, the first time in quite some time. It's something that we were talking about earlier in the summer, but we haven't worried about since his 29 consecutive saves. He's got 29 consecutive saves. The guy's been great. It's coulda, shoulda, woulda, but luckily the bottom of the ninth inning was a blessing from the baseball gods. Myers, Singles, and the GOAT, Jose Altuve, just missing a walk-off home run, just has to settle for a walk-off double with the Speedy Myers hoofing it from first to home. Walk-off magic, baby. You love to see it. You love to see the Astros win. You love to see them win at home. And you love to see those Mariners tears. You love to see those Dodger tears, those other fan clubs that are just hoping that we lose, that they're sad that we now have Jason Hayward. They're sad that we've been able to maintain the AL West Division lead. They are rooting against us, so it's good to see a little walk-off magic. And in today's game, obviously that got played a little earlier today. I'm recording this podcast on Saturday, the 31st. Earlier today, once again, there was no Breggy in this game. DeCinzo wasn't at first for him. Getting a little bit of the rookie seeing a little bit more time at first there. Let's see. Oh, my Apple Watch was taking notes of all of that. I don't know who is going to get a full text transcript of my podcast up until this point, but whoever you are, you're welcome. That's a freebie. But today's game, I was wondering why my wrist was buzzing so much. I felt like I was going crazy. But back to the game, away from my ADHD riddled mind. Yusei Kikuchi started this game. Yusei Kikuchi, I say great trade that we needed. It was a pitcher's duel through 5 innings. It was a wildly quick game and a kind of tough game to watch through 5 innings, especially for me as an Astros fan. I was like, once again, this is going to be another tough game to watch. Through the first 5 innings, there were 19 strikeouts from both pitchers, 10 from Reagans, 9 from Kikuchi. No pitcher has struck out 10 Astros in a game this season until today. So shout out to Cole Reagans, not to be confused with Ray Gunn, the Australian breakdancer and my breakdancing hero, obviously. Cole Reagans went out there and did great, performed wonderfully against the Astros, and it was the bane of my existence for a while. The Astros, earlier in the summer, I'd say probably, while we still had Kyle Tucker, in June, or at least through June, I want to say the Astros were towards the top when it comes to strikeouts from their batters. They were a very low strikeout team. And, this month of August particularly, the Astros have had more and more increasing strikeouts. I feel like they're pushing without Tucker. They're trying to find the long ball a little bit more. So I feel like because of that, sometimes, there hasn't been a lot of swinging outside the zone, thankfully. Yana was doing a lot of that earlier. Chas McCormick obviously had been doing a lot of that. There, a little bit of swinging outside the zone got contagious for a while. I feel like the at-bats have definitely got a whole lot more competitive, but I think it's just because they're looking for that big power hit. There's been more strikeouts. So the Astros are now fourth in baseball. If I saw that graphic right, at least they're fourth in baseball in strikeouts right now. I believe it was third or fourth. I'm gonna say fourth, and I'll have to get back to you and do a correction or a comment or something here to let you know who that was, or where the Astros actually landed on that list. But it's tough to see the Astros striking out more. This game was particularly rough. Hopefully, I feel like what they were going for with Reagan's is they were obviously going for a little bit more of an attack mode, and it kind of backfired a little bit until it didn't. But we'll get to that real quick. Want to give Ben Gamel, who started this game in right field, another shout out. Ben Gamel has been nothing but a gamer since he put on a Houston Astros uniform. He had a diving catch in the sixth inning to preserve Kikuchi's shutout at that time. The new guys have really been getting it done. You love to see it. Kikuchi gets through the sixth inning, I should say, for the first time in his Astros career in this game. In the bottom of the seventh inning, though, however, for the Astros, the bases were loaded, and Yainer Diaz singled to score 2 runs. Jordan moved to second base on that single, and Jordan stole third with a rare double steal from Jordan Alvarez and Yainer Diaz. Jordan stole third, Yainer stole second. You love to see it. And then JP3 up at the plate barely misses a home run to get a 2 RBI triple. That effectively knocked Reagan out of the game. Astros were up 4-0. At that point, you got 2 RBIs from Yainer. I was like, does that math? Yeah, 2 RBIs from Yainer and 2 RBIs from JP3, putting it up 4-0. It was an amazing moment. I was doing the math there. Obviously, I always say, folks, I watch every game. I watch every pitch. So far this season, I watch every game and every pitch. I read so many things. But sometimes my brain melts when I'm trying to describe it here. But yeah, it was 4-0 with a man in scoring position, obviously, at third and 0 outs. And Pena scores on a wild pitch to put it up 5-0. JP3 with a perfectly timed run, a perfectly timed slide, barely gets under a perfect flip and a perfect tag. No other Houston Astro would have made it home safe. You really, in this game, JP3 really was the hero. If JP3 was almost the villain of the previous game and Jose Altuve was a hero, in this game, JP3 very much was the hero. Getting that 5th run was amazing, giving us a little extra insurance. The rest of the inning, unfortunately, in the bottom of the 7th was uneventful. Kikuchi ended up pitching 7 full innings. He was absolutely fire in this game. The longest outing for Kikuchi as a Houston Astro. He pitched 7 innings, gave up 5 hits, 1 run, 1 earned run, and 12 strikeouts. After Kikuchi pitched his 7 innings, Hector Neris came in. Unfortunately, Neris had his tough first heart attack Hector moment of the season. He had 1 inning pitched. He gave up a hit, and that hit was a home run from Bobby Witt Jr. Definitely did not feel good. But, it happens. Definitely a tough one there. Sorry here. Unfortunately, somebody tried to call me there, and I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. That's kind of how it goes. So yeah, that ended up putting the game up putting the Astros were still up 5-2, I should say, but got the Royals a little bit closer, making the game a little bit tighter, and not feeling that comfortable in the in that 8th inning, the bottom of the 8th. Jordan came so close to a home run. He had a homer stolen from him just past the right field wall. I mean, come on. Jordan has definitely been struggling a little bit as of late at home. Not even too bad. It's crazy to say that Jordan has been struggling when he struggles. He's like merely just an average hitter. The struggles at home has not been that great, but on aggregate, he's been great this season. He's not, we definitely have seen so many fly balls go to the warning track for Yordan at Minute Maid this season. So many almost home runs. He's an amazing hitter, and it definitely, irks me when people think Yordan has lost a little bit of it. Yordan, Baseball Savant wrote a whole article about how the most underrated hitter in baseball is Yordan Alvarez. And part of the thing they said about it is just his historic run, how great he's been doing so young, and the fact that since StatCast has been tracking swords. A sword is when you swing at a ball so much and you miss it, but your swing is wild. It looks like there was going to be no contact whatsoever. You kind of lose control of that swing. A lot of players have swords. Some players have a sword a game. You just miss really bad. Yordan has yet to swing that poorly, where it actually counts statistically as a sword. Yordan is an amazing hitter, and he's just having a little bit of struggle at times this season, but he's going to find it. He almost had the home run that would have gave us a little more insurance. Unfortunately, it was not a Yordong for Yordan and for us. But after Hector Neris came in, cue Johnny Cash, because Ryan Presley came in to close after he's been injured, after Abreu and Hader had been used so frequently in this game. We have a little bit of a time travel machine, and we use Hector Neris. We use Ryan Presley to close out this close game. And, of course, Presley comes in and does a great job, only gives up a hit, gives up just a strike, only gives up a hit, gets a strikeout, and picks up the save. So great to see Presley doing well. He definitely can make me very nervous, but I really think it was injuries that were plaguing him this season. He looks right so far. He's been missing a lot more, throwing some non-competitive pitches and getting himself into trouble in other outings since he's been back so far from the IL list this month. He's been great. So we're very happy to see that from Presley. Pena was the MVP of the game, obviously, besides Kikuchi. If we're talking about on the hitters' side, position players. Pena was 2 for 4, got 2 RBIs, and obviously that run where he scored on a wild pitch. The team as a whole only had 5 hits, but they did get 4 RBIs, worked 2 walks, and 11 strikeouts, with 2 for 2 with runners in scoring position, only leaving 3 men on base. It's efficient, if nothing else. We definitely need some more power in the middle of the lineup, but taking 3 games in a row against the Kansas City Royals is huge. And tomorrow, the Astros go for the sweep in the matinee. I think they can do it, but it definitely will be a drag-out game. It could be another close one. It could be another tough game for the Astros. But if they can find a way to win it, and it looks like they've been finding ways to win games lately, they will be fine. I think real quick, let's talk about September call-ups. Obviously, with August ending and September right around the corner, I'm not just worried about Bills. I am thinking about who the Houston Astros are going to call up for their September call-ups as they're getting to their playoff push here. In this day and age, in September, all major league squads are allowed 1 extra pitcher and 1 extra position player to be on their squad for September. So, kind of factoring in who is on the 40-man roster, I'm really quickly going to speculate as to who we think could be called up. For the 1 pitcher, we're looking at rookie lefty Brian King, who was just sent back down. We have the Magic Man, Seth Martinez, long reliever / mop-up guy, Sean Dubin. He also, has started in the past. I don't think we're in a situation where we're looking for starters in a 6-man rotation, obviously. Forrest Whitley, who was a previous starter as well, but now he's mostly been working out of the bullpen and has been doing pretty good. Obviously, a dark horse here would be Nick Hernandez, who is still on the 40-man roster, University of Houston pitcher, but I'm just not sure if he's anywhere close to being called up. I think the first 2 names on the list are the most likely ones, Brian King or Seth Martinez, due to their contributions this season for the Houston Astros, these are known commodities that Joe Espada can trust and has been putting into games and will put into games. Or maybe it's Whitley's time to shine. Maybe we're looking for a fresh arm. Maybe we're looking for something dynamic with some heat, somebody new, and Whitley might be getting another chance. He did have a shot. He literally came up for, I think, 1 day, maybe 2 days in one game. He finally got his call up. Maybe it's time for Whitley to actually shine. I don't know. Or if you're like Cousin Terry, when I was talking about in the previous podcast, I was talking about how I don't trust Abreu. I mentioned who would you like to maybe get a shot in the 7th instead of Abreu, and I thought I was a big Montero apologist. Cousin Terry definitely likes Montero too, because Cuz was saying maybe Montero. And, at first, I'm not going to lie, my first knee-jerk reaction, Cuz, was like, oh, no. And I think that's just because of how, there's no other way to put it, kind of atrocious his outings have been this season. He's been real Jekyll and Hyde. He's had some good outings, that's for sure, where you're like, maybe Montero is back. But then he's had other outings where you're like, maybe he isn't. But since he has been in Sugarland, he has pitched 8 innings and no earned runs. So, you kind of look at that. You look at the fact that Joe Espada they DFA'd Montero and telling him if he works, hopefully they can get him to work past some issues and get him back on the main squad. Maybe this was what they had in mind. I was like, maybe this is wild, Cuz, Montero. But the more I thought about it, I was like, well, maybe. Maybe Montero will be called up as a September call-up. But I will have to say, because I do think that Montero would have to audition for that role. I think, the more I think about it, the more I think Neris obviously would be the easier person to put in there. But I just don't know how I feel about Heart Attack Hector going in the 7th quite yet. But, we're very spoiled to be able to say this guy, no matter what you think about Montero, he has been good. He has had success. I just don't know if I'm willing to put him in that position, but he may get the call up. The other dark horse would be Wander Suero, who has been a great closer for the Sugarland Space Cowboys, but he would have to, both Suero and Montero would have to be added to the 40-man roster. So we'll see. As for the position player, we're looking at some outfielders, maybe like Trey Cabbage, Pedro Leon, or even Chazzy Fizz, who just got sent back down, although I really don't think Chazzy Fizz is going to come back until they kind of figure that swing out. The other outfielder, Cooper Hummel, and Kennedy Corona, I'm thinking perhaps Kennedy Corona, if they're looking for, kind of like more of inject some fresh blood into the offense, but I don't think Cooper Hummel's going to be coming up, if I'm being honest. And when we're looking at infielders, Gray Kessinger would be your defensive infielder, but I'm not sure if they're calling him up either. I think that the answer might be mi primo. That's right, Cesar Salazar. Obviously not my actual family, but I claim him, of course. Mi primo, Cesar Salazar, obviously hit very well in a very limited sample size, of course, for the Houston Astros this season. But he also has proven that he can field the position of catcher very, very well, showcasing some great defense and calling some great games and getting some trust from his pitchers. So I could see, with Victor Caratini playing more first base, with Yainer Diaz DHing, with Joe Espada using Caratini and Diaz in the same lineup very frequently, that maybe it's time for a third catcher to be joining the team. I wanted to mention also in this podcast, Yuli Gurriel, and I know a lot of you are like, what, Paul? We're not looking for first baseman anymore. We got Zach DeZenzo. But no. The Astros are not getting Yuli Gurriel. Unfortunately, he's joining the Royals. That's right, the Kansas City Royals traded the Atlanta Braves for Yuli Gurriel. Yuli Gurriel has spent most of his season, I believe all of his season, in AAA in the minor league system for the Atlanta Braves. And with Vinny Pasquantino going down with a broken thumb injury a couple games ago now, the Kansas City Royals are looking for a first baseman. They're looking for a first baseman that knows what he's doing in the playoffs. they're going with the Yuli Gurriel. I don't know if Yuli Gurriel is playing tomorrow or anything, but it's nice. It will be nice to see Yuli once again in baseball. But my goodness, if he's playing really good, I'm gonna be really, really sad. For me, not for Yuli, but we'll see how Yuli does as a Kansas City Royal. But that's not it. The Kansas City Royals also claimed Tommy Pham and Robbie Grossman off of waivers, so they're stocking up. We'll see how the Royals finish off the season, but they are serious. In the AL West watch, as we're wrapping up the podcast here, we're looking at how the Astros are looking right now in the division. They are 74-62, 4.5 games ahead of the Seattle Mariners, who are 69-66. The Texas Rangers are 64-72, and we're 10 games ahead of the Rangers right now. I thought it was absolutely hilarious on the Space City Home Network. They didn't even include the Rangers on the graphic in the AL West hunt. It was just the Astros and the Mariners. They didn't add any other team in the division. They're like, these are just the two teams. And I get it, I believe right now the Rangers have a 0.1% chance of getting to the playoffs as per Fangraphs. And boy, that's gotta hurt. I'm not the one trying to bury them. That's Fangraphs. That's that's the Space City Home Network. I feel like that's pretty rough, Rangers fans. I'm sorry about that, but you enjoy the last month of the season the best you can. Game 4, the Houston Astros are playing the Kansas City Royals for the fourth game. Ronel Blanco is going on the mound. He's 9-6 with a 3.14 ERA and a 24.3 strikeout percentage, and he's going up against Alec Marsh, who's 7-7 with a 4.67 ERA and a 21.3 strikeout percentage. A sweep of the Royals would be icing on the cake of this August grind, but we'll just have to see. Because honestly, this team is very tough. I know the Astros pitchers are up to the task. We just need to find a little bit more offense, or at least have an efficient offensive game like we did today. I really think that the Astros are figuring out ways to win. They're figuring out ways to get some power. I feel really good about this team right now. Definitely the most optimistic I've felt in a while. Taking 3 games from the Royals, battling the Orioles, battling. I guess it really starts with the Red Sox, but battling the Red Sox, battling the Orioles, battling Philly, and now having to battle Kansas City. It feels like having to play 4 playoff teams back to back with no break, and these guys have done very, very well. So you love to see it. After we play the Royals, we have the Reds. We're at the Reds, have a weird day off in the middle of that series, and then a homestand. So definitely look out for that. And as I've said, that we're recording this podcast today, so hopefully after the series, we're not going to do a series recap podcast. I'll definitely do an article or some kind of meme dump post on the Substack, so check out for that. But we will be back on the Astros off day for another podcast, so definitely look out for that on I believe that's going to be Tuesday this week. So that's going to be it for this podcast. So thank you so much for listening. We very much appreciate you here at the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. We appreciate all of the diehard Houston Astros fans that listen and support this podcast. Please, wherever you're listening to this podcast on, rate and review this podcast, subscribe, download, and share with other H-Town hustlers, other people out there that appreciate the Houston Astros and are looking for some positive vibes and some good podcasting about this team. I obviously being silly here. We're learning here at the podcast, and we're getting there, folks. Please, if you want to talk to me about, if you think Montero is going to make the team, if you think Cesar Salazar is going to make the team, if you think it's going to be King or Martinez, let me know who you think these September call-ups are. You could either go to the Substack and comment on the podcast there, or you can reach out to me on social media at Paul Salazar JR on all social media platforms. You can message me. You could, let me know what you think. You could get on the podcast like cuz. If you don't want on the podcast, definitely let me know that too. Or you could go to the Substack, that's spacecadetsports.substack.com. You put in your email there on the website, and you can get every article, every meme dump, every podcast, and the occasional video podcast emailed to you directly. Or if you're like me and you like the phone experience or the iPad experience a little better, download the Substack app, search Space Cadet Sports. You see the little orange astronaut pop up. Subscribe to me there and click that you want notifications instead of emails, and you get pop-up notifications for every article, meme dump, and podcast instead of an email. I like that experience a lot better. Plus, you can read all the other authors on Substack on that app. Definitely reach out. Let me know how you're feeling. This podcast is a small podcast. It only goes as far as my listeners will take me. So thank you for sharing, rating, and subscribing. Please keep that up. I really do appreciate and love y'all for it. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos Astros.